Hi, I'm Mort Cooper, your host on Change Your Voice, Change Your Life. Subtitled, Deep Throat Voices. Why deep throat voices? The connotations, the denotations, the suggestive stuff? No. 99% of voice problems when you are losing your voice basically caused by talking in the lower throat, called deep throat voice. People go to their doctors looking for pills, shots, genetic explanations, neurological causes. It's basically caused by wrong placement of voice in the lower throat. They don't talk up in the face, up here where all good and great voices are, and that's the problem. They're looking for esoteric, very complicated conditions causing the problem when they have voice trouble. Today's program is going to show you that a condition called spasmodic dysphonia is caused by deep throat talking. It's not a dystonia, it's not a neurological problem. It's not any of the theories that my medical colleagues come up with. It's caused by talking wrong. And a natural approach to it called direct voice rehabilitation has been able to cure this so-called incurable voice problem. Let's take a listen to the Fox News Network. After that, you can see some books on the screen. They're in the library free. And then another book called Curing Hopeless Voices, called The Strangled Voice, Spasmodic Dysphonia, is free on my web. Let's take a listen to Fox News.
In today's FoxRx Health News, an ailment that many people see as hopeless. It's called spasmodic dysphonia, or in simpler terms, strangled voice. What it does is change normal speech into strangled whispers. But now there is some hope. Joining us is Dr. Mort Cooper. He's a voice pathologist who's written several books on how to improve your voice. Also with us is Fran Frederick, who is one of his patients. Welcome to both of you. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
Doctor, first let me ask you, just to explain to people how this thing comes about. Do people misuse their voices and it ends up being, something happens with their vocal cords that they get so sort of gummed up that they can barely speak?
Absolutely. They talk in the lower throat. The medical people call it a focal laryngeal dystonia. I find it's a dysphonia. That means that they're misusing their voice, and I take the voice out of the lower throat and I put it up in the face. And take a listen to the voice that this young lady had, Fran. I'll play it.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
That's the strangle voice.
All right, can we hear Fran speak? Fran, if you would, just
Yes,
speak to us.
hi. I'm speaking.
Do
I sound a little better?
I would say you sound a lot better.
I feel a lot better, too.
What sort of treatment did you go through?
Actually, it's a direct voice rehabilitation treatment where basically you learn how to talk out of the lower throat and bring the actual speaking into the mask, which is the nose and the mouth.
Right. Now, doctor, I mean, there's been a lot of coverage on this, and there are other doctors who recommend injecting botulinum toxin, which we should explain to people is a poison into people's throats.
Right. And Fran had that at Vanderbilt, and she'll tell you about what happened to her.
I did have one Botox injection, and I will never have a Botox injection ever again.
What happened?
It's muscle spasms throughout the body. I didn't have a voice for 2.5 weeks, and they told me I would never recover a voice ever again, completely, 100%.
Yikes. And yet, Dr. Cooper, you say that even there's a group that's sort of an advocacy group for people who suffer this strangled voice that advocates botulinum toxin injections as the way to treat it, and that it is otherwise totally incurable.
The medical profession hasn't had a single cure in 130 years since Stroud first discussed it in 1871. For the record, the support group, Spasmodic Dysphonic Group, has generous donations of money from Allergan, the maker of botulinum toxin called Botox. And they have serious side effects, which I find they're not reporting. Fran had very serious side effects, spasming of the neck and the chest and so forth. I report cures for over 25 years, and the medical profession and the Spasmodic Dysphonic Association are in denial about these cures and not giving patients the choice to decide for themselves to get a better voice by direct voice rehabilitation.
You describe yourself as a pain in the backside to a lot of people who advocate botulinum toxin. Why is it that you are at such loggerheads with some of the other people here?
Because I'm a non-invasive procedure, and the medics, a small group of them, are giving Botox shots ongoing. They have 700 patients, 900 patients. They have an annuity for life. I'm saying there's a cure and been reporting the cure for over 25 years. I'm a former professor at UCLA Medical Center, and the patients I have cured come from the Mayo Clinic, diagnosed there, UCLA Medical Center, Scripps. We had Ginger Chang, who was diagnosed at Scripps and told it's hopeless. She came in, had a work with me by direct voice rehabilitation, has been cured over 1 year. Gail Pace at UCLA Medical Center, diagnosed by Dr. Burke, the chairperson. He referred her. She had abductor and adductor, such as Fran had, diagnosed at Vanderbilt, and she has a voice for over 9 years, cured. The Mayo Clinic.
Right. That's right.
Yes, Fran?
Yes, I just wanted to add, there are a lot of people out there who do not think there's a cure for spasmodic dysphonia. And there is a cure. Obviously, listen to my voice. It's curable. So for the people out there that I've talked to all over the websites and internet that are stuck in their homes for 20 and 30 years, I want them to know that there is a possibility of rehabilitation. And I think that's important.
With that, we'll let that be the final and emphatic word.
Thank
Fran
you.
and Dr. Cooper, we thank you both for being with us and for explaining this. Thanks once again.
In our Fox RX segment, the debilitating disorder spasmodic dysphonia, otherwise known as strangled voice, or SD. Joining us now to tell us what that is and what can be done about it, speech pathologist and author of Stop Committing Voice Suicide, Dr. Mort Cooper, and he's joined by Jacques Dupuis, one of his patients. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Our pleasure.
Indeed. Doctor, if you can, first fill us in on what SD really is. I've never heard of it.
You're talking like this. It sounds like somebody is throttling as you talk. The medical community says there are no cures, and I've been reporting cures for over 25 years. They say it's neurological. I say it's voice misuse. Jacques can tell you what it feels like and what happened to him.
It just feels like, Jacques, that you're trying to speak and you can't get the words out? You're struggling to do it? Is that it?
Yes, it feels very much like someone has a hand around your neck. Your whole vocal apparatus is constricted. You strain to get the words out, and it's a real struggle.
Here's what he sounded like.
For the first couple of words, people say, gee, your voice sounds good, and then I say, well, hang on, that goes bad.
That's what he sounded like.
So quite a change there. Doctor, why are you the only one in the world reporting an actual cure for strangled voice?
I use a different approach to it. I don't believe it's neurological. The medics believed it's psychiatric. And I found it to be voice misuse, and I changed the voice from the lower throat, where all strangled voices come from. They're talking down here. And I put the voice up in the face, where all good and great voices come from. And I report ongoing cures of the condition.
You're a former professor at UCLA Medical Center, a former director of the speech clinic there. You've been widely published in journals, I understand. Why are so many others in the medical community, especially experts in the voice field, opposed to your cures or your way of dealing with this?
Mine is a simple voice solution, and it doesn't include medicalization. It doesn't include Botox shots, 4 to 10 shots a year, which is poison, each year, every year for life, and it impedes on the medical treatment, their income, their turf, their ego, and so forth. So it's a shocker to them, and they remain in collective denial that there are cures, which I report for over 25 years.
Mr. Dupuis, how long did you have these problems, and how long did it take you to work with a doctor to overcome these?
I've had this condition for over a year. It was very, very difficult, as I said, to talk. I visited various doctors. I finally got Botox treatments. I had 2 Botox treatments from Johns Hopkins. They were ineffective. I got no voice, no recovery. I had speech therapy for hours on hours, and finally, through Dr. Cooper's website, found out about him, and have been in his clinic for about 3 weeks, and have had what I think is a very remarkable turnaround in a short period of time.
So in 3 weeks, you made this change in your voice?
Absolutely. My voice, I have a deeper pitch. I'm much more comfortable with it. I'm learning how to breathe correctly. Dr. Cooper teaches lots of techniques which are somewhat simple, but take a lot of work and a lot of effort, but produce good results.
Doctors, do you have a lot of other people working with you to help you in this sort of situation and dealing with this, this spasmodic dysphonia?
No, I work by myself. The competition, the medics think I have a whole staff. People in my field, the American Speech and Hearing Association, report there are no cures. That's the association has been around for 75 years, and they say there are no cures. The Medical Association, the medics since 1871, when Traub first described the condition, say there are no cures for 130 years. So they're leaving these people with hopelessness. I give hope, and I'm the only one providing hope in the country and the world, reporting cures of this so-called hopeless voice problem.
Doctor, do you see other people joining you in this fight and dealing with it the way you're dealing with it, or would you like them to jump on your bandwagon, so to speak, and do that?
I'd love them to. I love the American Medical Association and the medics in general, and the American Speech and Hearing Association and the National Spasmodic Dysphonic Association to look to cures. They insist, menage a trois, there are no cures. There are top ear, nose, and throat doctors that support me. Lee Travis, one of the 5 founders of the American Speech and Hearing Association, says I'm the best in the business. Henry J. Rubin, a top medic, has said I'm the only one reporting cures, and I'm successful at it with spasmodic dysphonia. So I have certain people on my side, but in general, it's one against all.
Jacques, I'm just curious, do you have to keep working at this in order to keep your voice the way that you want it?
Yes, it takes a lot of practice and effort. Eventually it becomes part of how I speak and how I breathe, but it does take work and effort, and it's not something that you get through a shot or a pill. It takes some time and effort, but certainly the results are worth it.
Well, you certainly sound dramatically different, and I might add, and I'm sure you would agree, much better than the tape we heard of you earlier, so it sounds
Absolutely.
like whatever you're doing.
I went with my wife on our 35th wedding anniversary and had to whisper for 2 weeks. My voice was so strangled.
That's after the Botox shot.
Some wives would like their husbands to whisper, I'm sure. Doctor, one last thing. You authored the book, Stop Committing Voice Suicide. If people want to get in touch with you to find out more about this, how could they do that?
They can get 1-800, call 1-800-932-3221. That's 932-3221.
As you see it there on the lower part of your screen there, and also a voice-doctor.com, is that correct?
That's correct, voice-doctor.com. And they can find all the information about cures, individuals who have been cured. They come from the Mayo Clinic, diagnosed there, UCLA Medical Center, scripts and so forth, cures of hopeless voice problems. And Jacques was told his condition was hopeless. Jacques, you want to talk about that?
Yeah,
actually, we kind of have to wrap things up, but Dr. Morton Cooper, appreciate you stopping by and joining us. And Jacques Dupuis, good to have you along as well. And congratulations on your newfound voice.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
We're back in studio. Steve Krager is the director. He's with me early in the morning. We have a wonderful time. Couldn't ask for a better director. We're going to take a look at books that I have in the library if he has a chance. They're free. 3 books, and this one is called Curing Hopeless Voice Problems, called The Strangled Voice, Spasmodic Dysphonia. It's free. You don't pay a cent. You download it on my website. It's the story of what's going on about the treatment of spasmodic dysphonia. My medical colleagues, my academician friends, Allergan, the maker of Botox, they're all well-intentioned in what they're doing for spasmodic dysphonia. Unfortunately, they don't have a single cure in over 135 years, totally. So it's saying something about what's going on. The medics don't have a single cure since Ludwig Traub first described the condition in 1871. And my take on the whole thing, I'm reporting cures for 35 years. I reported a cure in 1971 in the #1 handbook in the field by Lee Travis, the Handbook of Speech Pathology and Audiology. Then in my textbook in 1973, peer-reviewed in 1980, which was quite an honor. But the medical field, the academicians, and Allergan, the drug maker, Botox, are of the view they guarantee across the world on their websites there are no cures of spasmodic dysphonia. So they give me a monopoly, unfortunately. I'm the only doctor in the world, the most controversial voice doctor in the world, reporting cures ongoingly, documented, with 15 cures alone at UCLA Medical Center, where I was once on the staff and faculty in the head and neck division. We live in a world where once a paradigm is established, once a theory prevails, it's very difficult to change the establishment view of what's going on. Again, I say, my colleagues in the medical world and academia and Allergan, the maker of Botox, are well-intentioned. They guarantee there are no cures in the face of my reporting ongoing cures. I find the problem is due to wrong voice use, and all naturally I help the individuals with this condition to learn to use the voice from the lower throat to the face with midsection breath control, change the image of how they're using their voice because they like deep throat voice down here. And that's the cause of spasmodic dysphonia, and I also find it's the cause of 99% of all troubled voices. Let's take a listen to a before and after of those who had SD, spasmodic dysphonia, and how they talk now.
And I took a round of antibiotics, and then they put me on a stronger antibiotic, and I took that, and I began to feel good, but the voice has been a mess ever since.
I'm commission sales at Sears, and that's my livelihood, is my voice. I got so depressed just not being able to talk that it definitely affected my life.
This voice was coming out. I think, God damn it.
Within a month of therapy with Dr. Cooper, I was using my voice again to the extent that I could go out on interviews and auditions, and shortly thereafter actually worked.
You can hear the obstruction starting to obstruct now, I think.
This is the new voice.
There is that aspect of lightening up, but there also is an aspect of having the correct pressurization.
And he said, I don't want you to talk in that little girl's voice anymore. You talk in your regular voice. I said, but when I talk in my regular voice, you can't understand what I'm saying.
I had a strangled voice. It was very difficult to speak. When I did speak, it sounded strangled.
Before I had worked into the position of employment director, manager of employment. And he continued to make overtures.
To pick her up before too late and take her home. Do I feel that I'm likely to go back to it? No, I don't.
Ronald Figger. Okay, how long have you had this condition? A year and a half.
And he says, well, Ron, I'll give you 3 options too. He says, you can continue coming here for shots. You can call that doctor in California to schedule a surgery if you'd like. And then he goes, oh yeah, by the way, Ron, there's also this other guy. Go to his website, and he wrote down his name, thevoicedoctor.com, and handed it to him. And he says, check out this guy. He says he has a cure.
And so I found on the dystonia page that something that plagued people with focal dystonia was very often spasmodic dysphonia. And they called it, multifocal dystonia.
And I, as a patient who has experienced the fear and agony of thinking that my voice is disappearing.
It just got really bad lately. It chokes up. My voice chokes up. I can't breathe. I feel like I'm running out of air.
I didn't think that it could be so simple, but it was.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act like a prism and form a rainbow. When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act like a prism and form a rainbow.
Gradually through a period of a year, it kept getting progressively worse where within a matter of days it would occur.
This is the patient's recovered voice.
mastoid muscles.
And then I'd go in and start talking to my boss, and at the end of like a sentence, it would start dropping. And he'd say, what's wrong with your voice? And I'd say, I don't know.
I thought, what's happened? What have I done to myself? I know no one out there has this horrible problem I've got. But I found out there's an awful lot of people walking around out there in this world that have the spastic dysphonia.
And they say that it's because some motor signal from the brain is overamped and it tightens up the vocal cords.
It's pretty tragic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty tragic sound, and it's quite different now.
The last time he injected me with half unit each in Botox, I completely lost my voice for 6 weeks. I was incapacitated. It was a complete roller coaster going through that, you know, but that's the only treatment that they told me was available, and that I would be getting these injections for the rest of my life.
Couldn't think of any name, and my sister and I were joking around about how many people call the rabbit's cocktail, and I just said, oh yeah, wouldn't that be funny if I called it Q-tip? So we just called it Q-tip.
Can you talk with the rabbit again?
Hi Q-tip, how are you? Do you want to hop around today? Are you thirsty? Why did you bite my shoe?
Do you realize you change your voice when you talk to the rabbit?
I talked higher.
Who diagnosed it?
Scripps Hospital in La Jolla. Probably about a year and a half ago. They told me that it was neurological and I was born with it.
Other than the one time from Bryn where I had 6 months good voice, nothing.
I believe that spasmodic dysphonia is curable.
According to legend, a boiling pot of gold at one end. People look, but no one ever finds it.
I've been here for the past 10 days trying to find a teaching position for the next academic year.
Jack, calm down. Poke his crown.
They didn't know what to do because they couldn't get me out of it. So eventually I went to other doctors who told me I had spasmodic dysphonia.
Trying to get help is very difficult because you can't communicate your problem or just your trials. They want you to go to psychiatrists, and how are you supposed to go to psychiatrists when you can't speak?
Well, and then he says, well, how long ago did you see Dr. Cooper? And I went, oh my God, it's been 6 years. It'll be 6 years in June.
As I go through the day, even right now, I'm tending to raise my voice and go in the upper register.
You remember that voice?
I remember it.
Did you like it?
I didn't like it then, didn't like it now.
That's to help. And after a while, I regained my voice, not 100%, but much better than it had been. And after about 2 years, it started to, again, got worse and worse.
I hope that by sharing, others too will find new hope for a life that allows them that greatest gift that God has given us, the gift that makes us human, that gift we call communication.
The last gentleman on the DVD is the Reverend James Johnson of the Mayo Clinic, diagnosed there over 20 years ago with neurological spasmodic dysphonia, and he's been cured for over 20 plus years. Of course, he helps me and he helps others because he's one of the individuals that was so severe it was, he said, people have said it's unbelievable he can talk again. One of the individuals on this DVD is Tom. He said he had one success. We didn't include the fact he had 17 Botox shots by the creme de la creme, 3 of the top ear, nose, and throat doctors in the country giving Botox shots, and not one other shot of the 17 worked, covering a period of 14 years. I helped him to get his voice back. A young lady on the tape who talked like that, and she had bowed vocal cords, having had 2 Botox shots. She's been cured for over 9 years, I understand, by what I did for her. I do it all naturally. I find the cause of spasmodic dysphonia, and 99% of all voice problems are caused by deep throat voice talk down here. It's cultural. We want to talk in the lower throat. It gives us authority, it gives us sex, it gives us anything we have in mind. We have an identity, a voice identity, and a speech identity, and that's what's doing us in. It's not genes, it's not neurological cause, it's not psychiatric care. The symptoms from the strangled voice and other voice problems are coming from our own unintentional misuse of the speaking voice. I write about this, I call it voice suicide. The medical profession and the academicians, my colleagues, I'm a PhD, I was on the staff and faculty working with voice problems at UCLA for approximately 8 years, and we had fabulous results under Jack Pressman, the chairman then. Shows that voice problems are due to wrong voice misuse. Unfortunately, a lot of people in the medical world and the academic world are of the view that voice problems are due to disease, to medical problems, and especially with spasmodic dysphonia, basal ganglia, deficiency, chemical problems in the brain, genes, a dystonia. Dystonia means it's neurological, it's hopeless, and it's not. It's curable. I've been reporting cures for over 35 years. I've documented the cures. Still, the medical world worldwide today, on its websites worldwide, guarantees there are no cures. You can check it. All the medical centers, UCLA, Johns Hopkins, the Mayo Clinic, and so forth. Yet I report cures of patients who have been to the top medical centers diagnosed with severe spasmodic dysphonia. I've helped them to find their voice, to have a cure. A number of the individuals on the DVD you heard have had lasting cures for a number of years. It's very, very important for you to realize, if you have a friend, an associate, or somebody who suffers from the so-called incurable voice problem called spasmodic dysphonia or other voice problems, there's hope and there are cures. I'm Mort Cooper. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.